Warning: this is a very unprofessional production. The style is deliberately slow-paced and immersive. It won't provide the usual quick dopamine rush from typical modern content. Dietary and health advice shared reflects only the personal views of the author. Now let's try to relax and observe how Meyqool gets doomed.
Had anyone told Meyqool what's about to happen as he settles in for a much-needed showering operation deep within the Norwegian landscape, he would not have believed it. And yet, at the exact moment where he is the most exposed, the supernatural happens.
Greetings, sir. Sorry, ma'am.
Hi.
But there is a man after you. Don't ever pass by here again, okay? I'm joking.
Always after quality, meaningful human connections, Meyqool set forth on this journey nearly 2 months ago in the south of France. Living out of his basic car, he slalomed between the patches of civilization across Brittany, Normandy, Belgium, the Netherlands, northern Germany, Denmark, and finally crossed the Skagerrak Strait to reach Norway. With nobody to save him at the slightest faux pas, he is now here to find out for how long he can be a guest in Norway's rough nature when the only shield between him and the elements is a thin veil of metal. Spoiler alert, not very long. August 5, day 53. According to the forecast, it is certain that the number one thing that is about to become a real problem soon is the weather. It seems like entire south of Norway will be overtaken by a continuous overcast along with a continuous monsoon. As we all know, Meyqool must avoid humidity at all costs, because the only way to dry clothes in Norway is not piled on top of each other in a car at 15 degrees Celsius, nor 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Days of rain immediately means that it's going to be cold. Meyqool will be confined in the car, going to crap outside will be an extremely complicated maneuver, and cooking will be reduced to what a man can make inside a car. Not to mention doing the dishes. Bon appétit, Meyqool. Pardon. We did say that as long as he's in Norway, we'd call him Mackerel. There is one remote place in particular that Mackerel is aiming for, called Bumlo. At this point, Mackerel doesn't know what to expect from a fjord. Mackerel has never seen a fjord, but the name Bumlo carries a certain allure, and experiencing a fjord without being locked in the car due to the rain would be a nice accomplishment. Let's see if Mackerel can make it to Bumlo before the typhoon. Bumlo. Norway has a population density of about 15 humans per square kilometer, or 39 humans per square mile. 86% of which remaining agglomerated in urban areas. So in the majority of the territory, the density hovers more around 8 humans per square kilometer or less. In comparison, the condensation in France is 120 humans per square kilometer or 306 humans per square mile, and even in the USA, it's 40 per square kilometer or 96 per square mile. This drastic difference is immediately palpable when one dives into this land and plays a big role in the peculiarity of the entire experience. Why? Because it offers a feel of how Earth might have been thousands of years ago. In most parts of the world, adding more humans to our planet is seen as a positive activity, an occupation to be encouraged. while the reason for this mindset probably resides in the stimulation of the financial system upon which our societies are based on. Its consequence, however, is that our natural spaces require more and more protection from the human's whims to retain their rights. So, as the population density grows, so do the regulations to preserve the nature. And as the regulations to protect the nature from the human grow, so does the gap between these two worlds. Understandably, environment defenders end up having to battle harder and stronger as the human expansion relentlessly overtakes larger and wilder swaths of the natural world. But as it is often the case when the human tries to intervene with a seemingly good intention, the result becomes a new part of the problem. You see, the regulation of access to nature in the form of natural parks, camping restrictions, fences, barbed wires, private properties, and even reserved hunting areas is turning nature into a mere amusement theme park where one can take a quick dip while remaining on a trail for a few hours before going back to his apartment. Nature can no longer be a place where one can stay immersed in for prolonged periods of time, a place where one can simply live in, as it was still feasible only a few hundred years ago. The increasing need to safeguard the nature from improper behavior is now reaching a point where that very protection is also becoming a contributing factor of that improper behavior because of the disconnection between the humans and the natural world it feeds. This is not just a collateral damage. Evicted from the nature, the human understands it less and less. Understanding it less and less, the proper way to interact with it fades away in the whispers of yesterday, and the idea of making a wider road somewhere starts appearing like a positive initiative. The humans have made such an imbroglio of yet a simple situation. It will not take much effort for the natural balance of the world to be restored and most of our environmental challenges to be resolved. All we have to do as a species is to momentarily stop reproducing ourselves so much. As the number of humans decreases, so does the amount of problems they create. At least this is what Meyqool thinks. And how can anyone trust an old French peasant who lives in a Romanian car and showers once a week? So while he wonders if he will ever adopt a child, Meyqool prepares a few meals ahead of time, uncertain about the next cooking opportunity on the road to Bomlo tomorrow. Meyqool gets ready to move away from this yet idyllic part of Norway to try his luck one more time into the unknown. Little does he know that this very decision is on the brink of sending all his dreams and expectations of bohemian life down the drain. Literally. Good last night of tranquility, Meyqool. August 5, day 53. As the land around the shoreline of Norway is often fractured into many pieces, short ferries and deep tunnels become rites of passage. Before getting lost in the most remote places of Bomlo he can find, Mackerel must first replenish the food supplies. Let's see if there is any edible food in a rural Norwegian supermarket. Just by the colors of it, one can already tell that the quality is going to be pretty doomed. At least they have eggs and ginger and bananas for the bowl of carbs. After a few other approximative ingredients, Mackerel retreats, but not without leaving this simple customer before him with an overwhelming demonstration of how little public time it is possible to waste.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
The first days in Bomlo, however, were not doomed at all. Infused with their love for the outdoors, the Norwegian humans are not stingy with their camping spots, leaving many free and pristine locations available for campers, even along the coastlines. Camping here in company of the heartwarming Brunost cheese, a uniquely Norwegian block of caramelized milk, cream and whey that one soon ends up adding to every possible dish, produces the unmistakable sensation of being very remote from any human society's concerns. So far away, one is not in reach of their quandaries. It is an outer world experience where the fresh temperatures keep you focused and the perpetual silence gives you more than enough space to acquaint yourself with yourself. August 9, day 57. This was all too good to last. The looming doom makes its first appearance, and as usual, the universe takes a perverse pleasure inventing something one didn't anticipate. The fact that Mackerel has to fix a protection with a car bed is not even close to what the real predicament is. The Norwegian call them knots. And what do? They burn your skin. Like mackerels right now. Culicoides is a genus of barely visible stoutflies who flock by the thousands towards any mammals as soon as the wind drops. The females, always eager to overpopulate any land they set foot on, use bladed mouthparts to cut into the host's skin until blood flows from the torn capillaries. Each bite immediately stings. Insecticides and repellents barely have any effect on them, and regular-sized screens will not impede their advance either. They are so small that they will find and utilize any open gap in order to get to the blood, following the carbon dioxide trail emitted by its owner. Needless to say, with such a sophisticated adversary, Mackerel is never sleeping alone in the CarHouse anymore.
It's great, it's so funny. Stop it, don't you think it's annoying enough like this?
Each opening of a door becomes a direct invitation for 100 more horny females to immediately become his roommate, which, no matter if that female is human or not, is never a desirable configuration. So, after holding the fort down in Bomlo for as long as he could, Finally exhausted by the brothel and the car house all night, and not amused anymore by the burning sensations each time the wind drops, Meyqool decides to escape the coastline and trade the horny females for a more hostile environment deeper inland and more elevated upland. There is only one problem. Meyqool completely underestimated how eager the rain is to turn his little philosophical vacation into an oppressive assault against his entire dignity. August 10, day 58. Meyqool hopes that trading the coastline for the highlands will free him from the knots infestation. Yet this choice faces immediate scrutiny as an official warning for exceptional rainfall over the entire south of Norway just dropped. While Meyqool masticates his options in his mind, another surprise from Norwegian culture comes brighten up his mission. He encounters the Norwegian toll system. Unlike in France or many other countries where getting on a toll road requires a conscious turn by the driver to exit the normal road and pass through a toll booth where prices are displayed, Norway's system doesn't consider that one has any say at all about the amount of money one spends when driving. The toll system here consists of an overhead bridge of automatic cameras which are free to pop up at any time of the drive, photograph your plate and send the bill to your home. The signage for these paid sections is so concealed that one generally only finds out about that surprise once one has already passed the cameras. On top of this, failure to register one's car documents and Euroclass rating for pollution emissions on a special app will lead to being charged at the highest possible rate. So, this subtlety, along with the zero tolerance for speeding and the gasoline prices 18 times higher here than anywhere in the world, gently reminds Meyqool once again that he is not here to relax and have a good time, and the slightest wrong turn will immediately lead to his final bankruptcy. Fortunately, the weather is getting so doomed, and the nice spots so inexistent today, that Meyqool's attention is taken away from the road mafia just in time to seize this approximative parking spot at the end of the day. Completely exposed to the rain and wind and cold at 700 meters altitude, or about 2,300 feet for those who measure life with their body parts, Meyqool has no other option than to try and see the bright side of things, even though there is absolutely none. Good night, Meyqool. August 11, day 59. Doomed morning, Meyqool. Meyqool finds himself completely immobilized in one of the worst spots to endure a Norwegian rainy spell, completely exposed to the wind at the top of a mountain. Everything feels cold and damp, although the CarHouse amphibiousness remains intact. The wind blowing through the air vent keeps the car much colder than necessary, but the only way to take it out is by pouring 2 liters of water inside the car. Constant sound of the rain slapping the CarHouse made for a very bad sleep, and going outside makes everything immediately soaked. The flexibility of Meyqool's bladder is being put to the test. As this Norwegian treat is not about to end anytime soon, Meyqool takes on the really relaxing task of getting dressed while lying down with a roof 15-inch above his head. It is almost certain that Meyqool is the only doomwad who organized such a pleasant time off for himself anywhere around in this Norwegian monsoon mayhem. Adjusting his deck chair in the shade of a serene birch tree, Meyqool contemplates what to order from the cafe after he wakes up from his rejuvenating siesta. But first, he makes a mental note to remember picking up the keycard at the reception desk later and avoid the disappointment of having to take the elevator back down just when he reaches his room. Satisfied with himself for thinking of this, he then ponders if he might spice up his holiday with some physical activity, since it's been a long time he hasn't been to the spa. However, to be perfectly honest, what Meyqool really desires above all at this point of the vacation is attend a ukulele workshop in the gazebo. Anticipation swells within him, eager to unravel his melodic ideas to the right teacher, who will in turn give him a few pointers on how to give them a life of their own on the instrument. This kind of human exchange never fails to be one of the highlights of Meyqool's carefree escapades. Nevertheless, living the time of one's life in good conditions, where everything one needs just happens seamlessly, is a blessing to pause an instant for and express gratitude. Merely because he is always at ease as a rooster in a butter batter doesn't mean that Meyqool won't take pride in playing his part in the logistics of the Eco-Lodge. Putting the lounge chair back where it was, tidying up a table, thanking the waiter, are part of the gestures Meyqool can afford given how easy everything is for him. But suddenly, realizing that constantly being so mindful might get in the way of the relaxation he's here for, Meyqool catches himself and comes back to the present moment, a moment to treasure, where the only thing he knows for sure is that once he gets the doomed car started, he'll finally be able to turn the doomed heater on. Absolutely clueless as to how he is going to disentangle himself from the torture he organized, Meyqool can't help to think of all these humans who worked really hard to entangle themselves to a land. Every family or farm subsisting on this territory has had to labor hard every year to develop a real basis within it. The previous days of doom, which started with the biting flies, are making Meyqool understand better how noble of an enterprise crafting a foundation somewhere is. While constantly being in movement is invigorating, it also makes it very difficult to be productive and build something. Self-maintenance, yes, one manages to stay in good shape, but since this baseline takes a lot of time due to not even having tap water, the energy remaining to build something is very limited. In his current situation, Meyqool can confidently say that what he is doing is clearly getting him closer to building a steady home somewhere. But the irony of this realization is still nothing compared to how determined the weather is to sabotage his immediate future even further. The life of a nomad lets one see unusual things, develops character, and allows one to see who one really is. But does this value hold against the one of building a home, which in turn helps spread our wings and help others too? The maximum Meyqool has to offer right now is at one time he had the idea of putting a few plants in the roof box and give them to people on the road. Needless to say, he can't even manage one plant of parsley for himself. On top of having no idea where he'll be able to sleep in this tempest, this is the level of giving back to the world he's dealing with right now. Anyway, with the weather not changing her mind about her assault on him, Meyqool completely ignores this profound realization and carries on higher in the mountains, baffled by how much of a cool inspiration he must be to a local who might witness him passing by with his solar panel and his intrepid life. The fear is turning into reality. The Norwegian Weather Institute emitted an extreme weather warning with Meyqool's favorite phenomenon, the deluge. In many places, the event will be the strongest in the past 25 years, up to 60 millimeters or 2.3 inches of rain per hour. Remembering what a local said to him on the first day about the Norwegian weather always taking things to the extreme, this means that river and lake banks are probably not very clever camping spots. And here is Meyqool, in the middle of Scandinavia's wilderness, completely naked, alone in his car. As the rainfall and the wind intensifies, everything keeps feeling colder, and actually, Meyqool doesn't even know where to go to spend the night. August 18, day 67. Taking refuge at a forest's edge, slightly protected from the wind by trees on one side, but still unable to go outside, Meyqool needs to prepare a meal. In this state of precariousness, the objective is more to secure proteins and carbs than to maintain any kind of culinary decency. Meyqool attempts a kind of survival pasta, deploying a variety of ingredients that don't go well together. However, just because Meyqool is only a few steps away from becoming a hobo, doesn't mean his pasta has to be made of basic cereals like wheat yet. So, the buckwheat pasta is added, then the soja proteins. Meyqool can't shake the thought of how this mountain scenery must be a magnificent experience with the sun as ally instead of the typhoon. Expectations open the door to disappointment. The potential for frustration is born every time an assumption arises. Without any expectation, disenchantment has nothing to feed on. The more effort one puts into a feat, the more the temptation to expect a result grows. We must probably do the things we do in life free from the grip of their outcome, but good luck with that. Undertaking a convoluted expedition without any hopes that once one arrives it's going to be nice requires a level of detachment that Meyqool doesn't master yet. Relying on even some mere coffee and chicory to lift his spirits, Meyqool still doesn't really know why events had to play out this way. Why has his experience of Norway become such a harsh one? While the water barely manages to boil, Meyqool gathers the last specks of positivity in his mind he can find to try and accept his unpleasant predicament and the fact that this experience was never meant to be an easy vacation. Olive oil from France and kalanamak, an Indian salt that smells like sulfur. And while the culinary standards too have gone down the drain along with the rain, Meyqool throws in some Danish pesto. What's nice about cooking in the car is that it warms the car up. As an unknown wise man once said, our character will never be fully tested until things are not going our way. Those who possess the willpower to succeed in face of adversity acquire the ability to enhance the lives of those around them, because after overcoming their demon, they are left with a newly developed strength, ready to be employed in the service of others. Meyqool holds on to this noble idea of an advocacy to keep his spirits up, attempting to circumvent the glazing realization that keeps flashing in his face the entire time, that finding himself in this situation is nothing more than the result of many bad decisions. Bon appétit. The situation has reached a point where the rain is so constant that Meyqool has to take into account how much he eats, since triggering an unmolding operation during the tempest would be a really doomed activity. Beyond the lens and behind the camera, there are many moments during the days where Meyqool gets aggravated to lunatic proportions over seemingly trivial issues. Yes, the weather imposes its own set of rules, but on top of this base layer of frustration, every additional hurdle becomes an irksome nuisance, at times stretching the limits of absurdity. Managing the stress that arises from contending against unfavorable odds becomes a test, cornering Meyqool precariously close to the edge of his self-control. This frustration occasionally leads to incidents like a few days ago, when for a brief but real moment, he believed he was actually okay if the camera broke. Why? Because of a backpack strap caught in the tripod, and untangling it correctly while packing the car since it was already starting to rain was not worth saving it. Meyqool is completely losing his nugget. Maybe this succession of obstacles is here to train him in handling adversity in a more relaxed and stress-free mindset than he's ever mastered so far. What if one of the things he's meant to learn on this trip is the art of maintaining composure even when things deviate from expectations? Something tells him that he really should try to be less bothered by things as a practice for life. Even when a lot of things are not going the way one wanted, the key is to cultivate a mental state of riding the wave, rather than letting one's mind disagree with its mere existence. A tendency Meyqool often finds himself falling into. The sound of the drops, once a lullaby, has lost its soothing touch. The cold, the rain, and the lack of quality sleep are taking their toll. Meyqool actually hopes he's not going to fall sick. Definitely is at his lowest spot on the trip. What if it gets worse? What is he doing? August 21, day 70. Welcome to the new bivouac spot for the night. Exactly 10 weeks after departing from the south of France, living out of the CarHouse and sleeping under a different sky almost every night, access to a fully equipped kitchen unmistakably feels like a bath in the park. Getting reacquainted with a dedicated workspace, a sink, multiple stoves, so many utensils, and even a designated trash area truly highlights how many simple things he took for granted. Honoring the essence of the Norwegian cuisine with their block of caramelized cow whey, Meyqool takes in every instant of this break, cooking in a setting that was truly missed. He's still trying to grasp the appeal of the Brunost cheese. It's not great, yet one ends up liking to use it anyway. Within 30 minutes of arriving, Meyqool extended his stay for a few more nights because of how exhausted he felt. Leaving tomorrow was too soon for a full recovery. After the pure doom he just faced, having access to a well-built house and toilets for a bit is a privilege hard not to cling on. Once upon a time, there was a man who thought he had outsmarted Mother Nature by taking refuge in an Airbnb until the storm passed. Little did he know that the weather apps had all conspired to prank him. The rain was never meant to stop, and on the last evening, all the little sun icons turned back into more puddles of rain. At this point, Meyqool wonders if the owner of the Airbnb is in on the prank too, having a blast watching clueless tourists like him book her place for a few days, as if that would change anything regarding the amount of time they would end up getting doomed in the rainforest. Meyqool savors his last precious moments of being the Pope of the fjords, discovering a newfound appreciation for why the humans built these houses. Nature is far from only being this utopian place to live carefree. In times like this, a well-built abode makes a world of difference. And in a few hours, Meyqool will return to a level of comfort in stark opposition to his current state of decadence. August 23, day 72. Apprehensive of what's yet to come after the initial beat-up by the elements, but at least well-rested, Meyqool grabs the Norwegian mountains by the horns a second time. His strategy of waiting it out while the gloom passes yielded only partial success. But at least the CarHouse is reorganized and all his clothes smell like detergent. The only problem is that his hope that the weather will finally cooperate is guaranteeing that it will not. Meyqool is aiming for a 1,300-meter peak or 4,300 feet. Considering the latitude and inhospitable temperatures, this should bring him as close as what he can handle with his approximative setup, all the while offering the kind of majestic sights he's been longing for. Despite the rain attacking him along the winding road to hell, Meyqool has unfinished business with Norway's wilderness. Sticking with the motto of this journey, he can't stop until he reaches the end of it. He just has to let go of this naive idea that the end is supposed to be enjoyable. Meyqool found a spot on the side of a lake. Trying to ignore the weather's whims, he decides to spend the night here because he can't help but think how fantastic this location is, no matter what. But while a flame of hope that the clouds will clear out hasn't been put out by the rain, Meyqool has no idea that actually the amount of clouds is nothing compared to what is awaiting him. Nevertheless, leaving the CarHouse behind, Meyqool concluded that what he must absolutely do right now is finish the climb of this mountain on foot. Only after reaching this apex will he be able to live with himself. Meyqool can't explain what force is motivating him to complicate his situation even more. as he sinks himself higher into the precipice, echoes of wisdom from the Theravada Buddhist tradition resonate through the water droplets in the air. Every action we undertake must spring from a well-defined intention. Act with intent. From the reason for this ascension to each individual step, all must be infused with intention. And just as Meyqool thinks he's being so clever with his newly found capability to hear wisdom through the rain, the Norwegian gods unleash their final assault on his aimless ascent. Suddenly, all points of reference disappear, Meyqool loses track of the trail, and a mantle of confusion envelopes his orientation as well as his own mind. Is walking in concentric circles to try and find his way. Now, however, this expression pertains not only to his quest to find the meaning of this journey, but also to the concrete challenge of finding the way out of this mountain, because he is really lost. So, if Meyqool is really honest with himself, what is the real intent in his ascension here? It's a matter of getting off this mountain today or enduring a night against a boulder in the rain. Meyqool must be more specific now. Seeing a challenging project through until its end, no matter how easy it would be to quit, definitely is the overarching theme of this experience. Suddenly, it hits him. It's not that complicated. It's just that he's a moron. From the very beginning, this trip was set to be a challenge. Instead of renting a hotel in Ibiza, Meyqool voluntarily put himself in less than ideal situations over and over, refusing to call it a night every next morning. Why? To prove to himself how much doom he can stand and elevate his threshold for it in the process. Similar to how goats engage in playful fights to the death to develop strength, Meyqool is engaged in a battle to the death against Doom himself. And his intent is to defeat him. The Norwegian gods made the trail reappear. Meyqool is far from being in the clear, but at least he now finally knows that he didn't completely waste his time by coming all the way here. This year, he pushed past a new frontier. A mystery may be solved, but that doesn't mean that Meyqool is absolved. Still stuck in the CarHouse at 1,300 meters or 4,200 feet altitude in 5 degrees Celsius or 41 Fahrenheit, Meyqool is up for another doomed night with his companions, the rain and the wind. All night, the latter will seep in through the air vent, guaranteeing a much unnecessary air conditioning. Already, the revitalization gained at the Airbnb yesterday is a thing of the past. As Meyqool once again transforms the minuscule cabin into a kitchen, his respect for the human settler who built a base instead of wandering around strengthens once again too. Good night, Meyqool. August 25, day 75. Finally, the turmoil seems to have subdued. It's still chilly, but at least there's no rain. Only the damp and muddy floor stands as a reminder of the beat-up that just took place. The force of nature that was the most dearly missed during the past 2 weeks makes his reappearance at last, instantly turning with his beams the entire atmosphere into a positive new beginning. The opportunity to cook and clean up must be seized, and knowing that for once a wet fork or cloth will slowly but surely dry when left unattended becomes an unsuspected source of motivation. As the pan still struggles to heat up due to the wind and altitude, Meyqool celebrates the respite by preparing a CarHouse classic, the whisked egg delight with vegetables and rice. This meal will be saved for later, as there is still no guarantee that the rain won't return. At least, Meyqool manages to transfer most of it into the Tupperware.
No. What did I tell you? Always guess what I want you to do, even if I don't do it properly. Now you have to clean yourself up on your own.
At this point, it's not like a bit of decaying rice on the floor is going to make much of a difference. That's right, Meyqool. Keep up the elegant presentation while the CarHouse turns into a JunkHouse. Anyway, when Norway hides its treasures under its veil of humidity, one must labor diligently to get a glimpse of the vastness of its beauty. And with patience and perseverance, one will eventually meet the true star of the show, that is the Norwegian sun. Within his hands lies the power to turn everything from doom to bliss. They say flowing water in Norway is drinkable. One can never be sure that there is no dead animal upstream, so Meyqool doesn't push his luck, and this will be for utility purposes only. With his return to the human civilization in a few days, any chance to lower the risk of looking like a disgusting weirdo is an opportunity that can't be ignored. With the CarHouse, the weather, and Meyqool's mind harmoniously aligned, the moment has arrived to start the descent from the mountains and rendezvous with the ferry back to Denmark in a few days. Goodbye, Norwegian mountains. Meyqool, in his infinite wisdom, dived headfirst in this journey without really knowing what he was after. He just felt that he needed to do it. He honestly didn't know why. As he travels back down the mountains towards the port of Kristiansand, he thinks that maybe, just maybe, the purpose of this escapade has finally revealed itself to him. Stability, the elusive creature he never realized he needed. Crafting a home, not just a shelter from rain, but a fortress against the chaos of life that will benefit himself, but maybe even other humans. Now, Meyqool will be leaving Norway with more than damp socks and a block of cowway. August 30, day 79. Good morning, Meyqool. Today is the last day, but there is still one last obstacle that could derail Meyqool's plan to catch the ferry. Not being able to get out of the spot he dug himself into. On a travel app, many fellow nomads have advised the necessity of a four-wheel drive to conquer the steep incline and get back on the road. Of course, upon arrival yesterday, excited about the personal spot on the lake he just found, Meyqool completely ignored this parameter and proceeded to his ritual of leaving a friendly note to the nearby house, since it's less than 150 meters or 500 feet away. Interesting how the previous campers concluded that leaving trash within the perimeter of a campfire was equivalent to throwing it in a bin. It's 9 AM. A bit of rice galette, honey, almond cream, and green tea won't hurt. Just like life, this journey was never about the goal itself and going to Norway, but about the experience on the way. The growth of a man doesn't take place through the restless pursuit of greater and greater prizes, but through his ability to make a choice. The magnitude of this goal is not as important as the fact that he has managed to set his mind on one. A man of knowledge is not a man embroiled in the perpetual pursuit of more, but a man who made a definitive decision. And yet, while the raw beauty is everywhere and the hardship has passed, Meyqool still wonders if he will get to experience Norway under a warm sunny sky one last time before he leaves. This marks the final brew in Norway for a long time. That is, if Meyqool is able to drive out of this pit. As Meyqool gets ready to go to the last spot, he realizes how a sojourn in Norway offers a glimpse into our Earth's ancient past, a time where nature claimed majority of the space and every direction exuded magnificence. When leaving Norway, one feels like having been granted an encounter with our world in its original paradisiac state of purity, coated with an orgy of pines, rivers, lakes, meadows, and pristine mountains in every direction. Meyqool doesn't know if he'll ever see them again. A last check on the solar battery level, 86%. Not bad for charging through the clouds. Last check on the forecast, no rain today, not bad for Norway. And last check on the angle of the road's juncture that's supposed to break the CarHouse. Maybe not so bad either. The time has come to see if the CarHouse has balls. Oh, it's about time we accept that there is no road the CarHouse can't thoroughly humiliate. Moving on. Wary of prematurely rushing to conclusions regarding the apparent improvement of the weather, Meyqool begins to entertain the idea of savoring the last afternoon in the company of actual sun. And as the clouds disperse in the physical world, a similar evaporation occurs in Meyqool's mind. The pressure to succeed on this trip gives way to a good sense of having done it. And what initially seemed like a transient wandering, once focalized through the lens of extreme discomfort, has transformed into a clear intent to establish roots. The only problem is that Meyqool is so delusional about everything he concludes that in a few months, he'll undoubtedly be in the CarHouse somewhere else on the same quest all over again. Lunch cooked this morning is coming in handy. Norway has decided to grant Meyqool the scenic beauty he was yearning for one last time, and admits him within one of her boundless, warm and magnificent oases of peace. The inseparable correlation between effort and reward is highly apparent in this land. The harder the effort, the nicer the reward. We are not guaranteed anything in this world. You'll live and you'll die. What happens in between is a giant mystery that will only reveal itself as time goes on. But as soon as you are able to look at something, calculate all the chances of things going terribly wrong, and still decide to make the plunge, that is a bravery you will never forget.